Okay, so I'm going to pull up, I created a PowerPoint for you and
Oh, wow. You're so, let me get my glasses on.
I apologize. Allergies, very bad over here.
And where are you?
North Carolina.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
where Carol is. I'm over in Apex. So, but yeah. So my company is called Divinely Inspired Messages. I'm going to, oh, I hate this thing. It goes on by itself. There you go.
Oh, funny.
Um,
I've never seen that before.
you haven't seen that before?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, it does. It does it to me all the time. I had just learned how to turn it off. Um, So I used to be a medium. I still am a medium. I have a lot of people who will not let me not be a medium, but mediumship actually exhausts me because of how draining it is on you energetically. So I've moved from mediumship over into gene keys, human design, astrology, and things like that. I still use my intuition, so I could still tap in everywhere. It's just speaking to those who have passed, and especially it just depends on when the person passed. If they passed a while ago and they're very comfortable with their energy, it doesn't really drain me that much. But somebody who's just passed a month ago, who's really struggling, it's such a warp to me
Oh,
that it wipes me out. So I try to veer from that, but not as easy as you think. I've been doing
right,
it for like 6 years, so all of my customers, no matter who I send them to, they always come back, which is really nice, but yeah, it's not so easy to get out.
right. So you've been
Um,
doing mediumship for 6 years?
yeah, so what I did was growing up, I was able to, I heard things and I saw things, but I never said anything to anybody because I knew people would think I was crazy. So I would like play little games in my head. And at 11, I heard, I just knew I was going to get hit by a car. So I went to my mother and I said, I don't know why, Mom, but I think I'm going to get hit by a car. So, of course, jokingly, she said, okay, well, be careful when you cross the street. And in less than a month, I got hit by a car.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, from there, I just kind of I heeded the warnings myself for anything. So I would know when somebody was coming, when somebody, I actually knew it was harder as I got older because I knew when one of my friends was going to pass, and 3 weeks later she passed. That was very upsetting to me because I don't want to know when someone's going
Right,
to pass. There's just certain things that I don't really want to know. But yeah, so I didn't, when I told the church, because I was raised Catholic first and then I went to non-denominational Christian, when I told the church that I was hearing things, the associate pastor was like, God wouldn't be talking directly to you. And then that Wednesday, I wasn't able to go to church for some reason. And a very good friend of mine, who's now the mayor, um, actually said, he's the only person I told what the conversation was. And he was like, I can't imagine how you felt. And I was just like, I was like, I don't want to make it seem like I think I'm better than anybody else. Like, I just, wanted to talk about it, right? Because it's supposed to be the gifts
right.
of the Spirit. Well, he did a whole sermon on how some people think that God's talking directly to them, and he like made a big joke out of it. He
Oh, wow.
so I stopped going to that church and I started going to another church, and they actually noticed without me even saying anything that I was prophetic. And so they asked me if I would sit on a prophecy team. So there would be
Oh,
three of us in a room, and there would be like 12 different rooms going on. People would come from all over the country. They would just give you their first name, and whatever came to us is what we would say. And so people
oh,
would start saying things like, I see the clouds and I feel like God's telling you that, things are going to get lighter and stuff like that. And I'd be like, okay, so I see a little boy. He's about 5 years old. He's wearing these blue jeans and this black shirt, and he's standing really close to you with another woman who's a little bit further away. And she's saying, and I'm going into these really deep
wow.
details. And people are like crying, like, that's my grandson, that's my, his mother, and all this other stuff, confirming what I said. So, the other people would ask me, how do you get all that information? And I'm like, I don't know. I just get it the same way you get. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. That's all I'm doing. And then I guess I did it for 5 years, and the elders said everyone else needed to step up their game with it, but Jeannie needed to stop embellishing.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah, because I was part of the church, I was hysterical. I mean, if anyone
Wow.
tells you something, you believe them, right? So one of the girls said, are you embellishing? And I'm like, no. And they said, are you hearing what you're saying? And I said, yes. They're like, then how could you doubt it? They're like, everybody confirms what you're saying. Why would you believe these people? They just aren't getting what you're getting. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just like, you give people credit for the position that they hold. So I guess over the next, I said, because I kept getting messages and I kept having to write them down. I was in IT. I was in IT sales,
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I'm getting all these messages and having to reach out to people. And I'm like, look, I was like, God, if I'm supposed to be doing this, you're gonna have to show me how to make money doing it, or you're gonna have to leave me alone between 9 to 5 because I'm a single
Mhm.
mother of three and I gotta make I gotta make ends meet. Within 2 months, I got laid off for no reason whatsoever. They just said it didn't feel like a good fit, and they gave me a full severance package.
Wow.
And yep, so I was just like, well, I guess I know
There
what
you
I'm.
go. Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, so I started my business, and then I've been doing it professionally for 5 or 6 years outside of the church. And then I just started learning about all the different tools that are out there. And I messed with all of them and found ones that were like ridiculously accurate. I mean, like so accurate with what it takes to get the information through a system like this. I would be so exhausted at the end of the day. So I just chose to use what's already there that
Oh,
people
okay.
figured out. And then anything that there was a spin on, if my intuition didn't feel right about it, I'll just say, this is the way I go. It looks like this is what it's saying, but I'm gearing more toward this, and I'm usually right. My accuracy has been anywhere between 95 and 98%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
Amazing.
high. I didn't know that most people are not that high. I would assume that most people would be. But nowadays, the veil's thinning, so a lot more people are a little more
Right.
accurate than before. So this
Ah, I'm excited. Thank
I'm
you.
excited too.
Oh, you're so
So
sweet.
I read differently than most people, and I'll do this quick because you probably know it. Human design is a roadmap of your life. So the difference between this and personality tests is people like Myers-Briggs and the Enneagrams, people ask you questions and they ask you what you think about yourself. The problem is if what you think about yourself isn't actually what it is, you're way off, or you get off in different areas. And I'm going to show you something that'll make a big difference later. So, this is a synthesis of 4 different sciences. So, you got biochemistry, physics, genetics, quantum mechanics, and 4 different ancient teachings, which is astrology, Kabbalah, the I Ching, and the chakra system. Together, they give you, well, let me not go ahead of myself. So why do you want to know this? So that you can understand yourself better. You can make your life much easier, more peaceful, and more enjoyable while you're having the experience that you planned during this lifetime. So from your date of birth, without asking you any questions, date, time, town of birth, a body graph is produced. And if you've had this done, you know that this is what it looks like. So you are a manifesting generator. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. So most people, when they do a reading, will stick to just this if they even hit some of this. I'm going to go into a little more detail because I want you to understand how I get to where I get to, and then we'll move into the gene keys and I'll show you some other stuff. So, what you're going to see here is your basic foundation is your type, which you are a pure manifesting generator. Your profile is a 6-2. Your definition is a split. I don't know if anybody's ever told you what that means.
No.
Incarnation cross, you are a left angle confrontation. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
So you're going to find you and I have some very similar things,
Huh.
which I
Oh,
find
cool.
really interesting. I kind of have a feeling I know what your childhood was like, and I want to go over it as we
Okay.
go through it and see if I'm on with this. It's actually really interesting. Your inner authority is your sacral, so you get that gut instinct. Your strategy is to respond, and your theme is satisfaction. If you are living your life correctly, you will feel satisfied. If you're not living it correctly, you will either be frustrated or angry.
Hmm.
Those are the two signs that you are living your life right or not living your life right. So there's five types of people in the world under human design. Some people say four. I like to split it out and say five. There's manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. You are a manifesting generator. There are 12 different profile types. What a profile is, it is how you are going to act while you go through your life. I'm a 1-3. A 1-3 means that I go in deep into investigating things that I'm really, really interested about. And then I throw myself into them and I try them all. Like, mediumship, I would do everything. Tarot, I want to know what it is all like to see if it's real. Otherwise, I don't want nothing to do with it, right?
Mhm.
So what they call somebody with a 3 is a martyr, because martyr, so somebody with a 1 is an investigator, somebody with a 3, so I'm an investigating martyr, because we're the ones that always say, why does this always happen to me? Why do all the bad things happen to me? Because we're like, oh, look at that wall. Let me throw myself against it. And then when we fall, we're like, why did that happen? Oh, wait, look at this wall. And you'd think you'd learn your lesson, but you don't, because you're here to be a 3. You're here to be an inaction, trial and error. You, my dear, are a 6-2. You're a role model hermit. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay. So you're, this is so spot on. It is amazing what you do for a living is so crazy. It blew my mind. A
Huh.
hermit is somebody who, when they want to understand something, it's not just investigating. You go into the depths of trying to understand all the aspects of it, but you're what we call, it's a projected line. So other people can feel that you know exactly what you're talking about, even though you're not sharing things with them, you're actually going into your hermit mode because you want to put things together. So like, for example, if you're going to do your podcast, you probably do a lot of stuff by yourself to organize and get ready for it because that's your hermit mode. And then
Right.
you come out as your role model. You're a role model. Now, with a role model, this is crazy. A 6 is somebody who is very similar to a 3. A 6 is somebody who has three specific segments in their life. So you have your first 30 years, you did a ton of trial and error. You threw yourself into things that most people wouldn't. It's like, hey, let's try this out. Let's do that. And it was a lot. You did a lot more than I probably did because mine evens out over my whole lifetime, but yours first 30 was heavy. Then your next from 30 to 50 is the beginning of your role model stage. What it is the way they explain it is, imagine you're sitting on a house. If the world is going on down below where the house is, you're throwing yourself into walls all over the place. And then at 30, you get and sit up on top of the house on the roof and you watch everybody else experience what you experienced with trial and error. And you're like, oh yeah, ooh, that's not gonna work. Nope, nope. And you're just because you know what's happened. At 50, you come down off of the roof and you step into your true role model destiny. Now, the thing that's cool about this is I don't know when you started I think you're 56, is that right?
Hmm.
I'm 54. So we actually only step into our destiny after 50. That's when the light switch goes on. If you've lived your life the way you were supposed to. Now, of course, you can veer off course and do drugs, alcohol, anything, gambling, whatever. If you can get off and get back on track again too. It's just that if you get through your 40s, which are God knows the biggest nightmare of all, those are what we call the reconciliation years. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-mm.
When you do your years by 7, so 7, 14, 21, and so on, when you get to 42, anything that you did not learn your lesson on, that's what we call your Uranus opposition. You actually are thrown into something really big that has to do with that lesson in life. If there's more than one, you'll deal with more than one, which I did. I did everything trial and error, learned the hard way. But 42 will really rock your world if you didn't do what you needed to do. Again, it could be like 41, 43, but around 42. Then you kind of heal through until you get to 49. And 49 is what we call your Chiron return, which is the wound you brought into the world. So if you didn't deal, let's say you had a really bad relationship with one of your parents, or you always felt like you were isolated or something, and you didn't deal with that over the years, that's going to hit you at 49. So usually people are past that when they get to 50. So 49, if it's your father and your father passed, what happens is whoever holds that type of position in your life, maybe a boss, maybe a coworker, maybe a uncle, somebody who has that stature that your father would have had, actually will something will happen with that person so that it would blow up to make you have that experience to get over it, strengthen yourself, and move on into your destiny.
Hmm.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a lot.
But I started the podcast when I was 50.
I'm not surprised. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at all. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I was quite interested. Your definition, I'm going to explain. So you have what we call a split. You are a small split with gate 25. So I'm going to show you that. I'm a triple split. So what that means, let me see if I can get to, I'll go back to that when I get to the other one because I have to show you the picture of the chart in order to really understand what that means.
Okay.
Your incarnation cross is your destiny. It is not the destiny that you're always searching for, like helping other people or things like that. Your incarnation cross is what you came to do every day, regardless of what you're doing for a living. So it's your purpose. It is you are a left angle cross of confrontation. That is really, really interesting to me because you've probably had a great deal of struggle, confrontation, crisis, because you literally have conflict in your Pluto, in both sides of your Pluto, which I do too. And you have it in your sun, which I'm going to go over all that. But Pluto, if you know anything about Pluto, it's actually where we transform. So where is the place that you mainly transform? Whatever gate that is where you transform. So you and I transform when we have conflict. So that's literally why you have so much conflict in your life because you're meant to create that that's put the energy that's supposed to come to you and you're supposed to get annoyed at what's being put in front of you and say, no, I'm not putting up with that. And so you confront it, which is, I mean, that's literally where we both are. That's our whole lives, but that's
Hmm.
how you got to where you are. Now, your authority, you have a sacral authority. Most people have what we call an emotional authority. I have an emotional authority. That means that whenever I'm in a really good mood, I say yes to a lot of things I should not, and later on regret because I have to apologize and say, I don't have the time to do that. And when I'm in a sad mood or a bad mood, I'll say no to things that I wish I would have. If somebody wants to go to lunch and I'm in a bad mood, I'll say no, and then later be like, oh, I should have gone. I would have had a good time. You have an open emotional center. I'm going to go over all of this in a minute too. I needed to give you the layout first.
Okay.
Your because you don't have the emotional center, you default to the next one, which is your sacral. You've got a really, really good chart when it comes to making decisions.
Hmm.
Because you're not tossed around by your emotions, you get this gut instinct that gives you an uh-huh or an uh-uh if something is right for you. You know exactly what it is, and you're very comfortable making that decision. I flip flop all over. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Oh wait, no, that's not a good idea. No, yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh my gosh,
So
I'm so like that. Everyone
yeah,
always goes, "How do you make decisions so fast, Ashley?"
yeah.
Yeah, I know for that is so true. That is so
Hmm.
cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there's other ones that are like splenic, ego, mental, self-projected, and a moon cycle, depending on others, but I'm not going to go into other people's cycles, but I want you to see yours. You probably know what your strategy is. Your strategy is what makes working with other people less resistant. So you ever realize when you go to somebody, I'm going to use you and me as an example. I'm a manifester. I'm here to inform and initiate. What that means for me is, and it's crazy, even in the smallest form. I have three kids a few years ago when they were in regular school. They're in college now. Um, they, I left to go to the store to buy something for lunch for them and left my phone home. I didn't tell anybody I was going to the store. By the time I was gone for maybe 10, 15 minutes. When I came back, my oldest and my youngest were beating each other up in the driveway. I was like, what in the world? We're just not a violent family, right? It's just, I like, what in the world are you doing? And they were like, you didn't tell anybody where you were going. We didn't know if you were going to be back soon. You left your phone here, da, da, da. Like this huge problem because I just didn't tell anybody. Well, when I learned about human design, if I don't tell people what I'm going to do before I do it, I get resistance. Okay. Even
Okay.
if it's my, so if I would have said to my kids or left them a note, they don't have to give me permission. But if I say, hey, I'm going to run to the store, I'll be back in a little bit, everything would have been fine. It was the fact that my energy said, she didn't tell you. And so people get combative with me if I don't say what I'm going to do, whether they
Huh.
agree with it or not. Okay. And then I'm here to initiate. You're a manifesting generator. So I could walk in to a room of people, I have no idea who they are. And I could say, hey, I need everybody to come over here. I want to show you something. And my energy, my makeup, everybody would just find their way over there. They don't know me. They don't know why. They just wouldn't question it. They just go. Whereas if you said that, people would look at you a little weird. But if you said, I want to show you something about what we were talking about yesterday. I'm trying to think of something that, let's say you were dealing with a bunch of people and they were there to learn about children's events. And you said, I want you to all come over here so I can inform you about the children's events that are happening. Immediately, you're responding to what they wanted to know, and they
Hmm.
will all follow you. So when you do your podcast, you're literally responding to people who have. So Carol told you about me and you responded yes or no. Did you want me to come on the show? That's how you're supposed to do it. If you would have just reached out to me out of nowhere, you probably wouldn't have even gotten in touch with me, or I would have misunderstood what it was about. The energy defines how people will be less resistant. Is that crazy or what?
Wow.
Yeah. So if you can understand that instead of like throwing something out there for like your podcast, if you say, what do you guys think about this? And they say, oh, we would love to have this, this, and this, we would love to see this on your show. You responding to that would get even more people watching.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and the other ones again work differently. Now, again, this is your, we talked about this. Your theme is either satisfaction or frustration or anger. That's just how you know if you're living your life right or not. Now, this is, we're going to go way back a little bit. So in caveman days, we had five centers. Okay. We're just talking about evolution. When we went from non-opposable thumbs to opposable thumbs, we went from five centers to seven centers. Okay. We got a lot of other things with that. But in 1781, when Uranus was discovered, we went from seven centers to nine centers. And that's what these are. We have nine centers. Now I'm going to explain this is why this is so important. We are now on the cusp of the next evolutionary change, huge change. 2027 is when the new kids that are born after February of 2027, they will have 11 centers. Okay.
Okay.
That's why I don't know if you've noticed, but since the 80s, they've been talking, the guy that actually had the experience to understand how all this stuff works. He used to talk about how in 2027, a lot of kids are going to be born. And back then, I don't think they even knew the name autism, but they were going to be autistic, nonverbal, but yet be able to communicate with each other through telepathy. Well, literally, they actually, I don't know if it was 5 years ago or more, there's a doctor that is doing studies from all over the world where nonverbal kids are reading their parents' minds. They're doing tests on all this. I don't know if you saw it, the telepathy. I don't know if it's,
Tapes, telepathy
yes,
tapes, that
yes,
podcast.
yes. Crazy, crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
that's exactly the next generation, right? And
Wow.
and everybody's writing them off like, they can't talk, they can't communicate. They're just communicating differently. And
Right.
that's because they have extra centers. So
Huh.
this is the head center. This is the ajna, the throat center, the G center, which is also your identity. This is your heart center or ego. This is your splenic center, your emotional center or your solar plexus, your sacral, and your root center. These all correlate to different organs in the body. This is, I don't know if you already know this. So
Mm-mm.
every time I'm going to use myself as an example. So let's say this center here correlates to your liver and your blood. One of my lessons is to not be a people pleaser. And what that lesson is comes out of this center. We all have genes. We have three healthy gene expressions or three weak gene expressions. Every time I don't learn my lesson in being a people pleaser, my body automatically creates weak gene expressions in that area and I get sick. So I have anemia, which is a blood disorder. Every time I am too much of a people pleaser and I don't stand up for myself, my anemia kicks up. I get
Hmm.
vertigo. I get, I'm exhausted all the time. I go to the doctor and my levels are they're just too low actually. When I start to stand up for myself, my body creates healthy gene expressions and I don't need even vitamins at that time. So your body will create sickness or just weaker gene expressions in the areas that you're not learning your lessons in.
Wow.
I know. I
Gosh.
told you, I teach this totally different than the average person. So
Jeez.
inside each center are numbers. Each number equates to what we call a gate. Each gate is the same thing as a personality trait or a probability of what you're going to be like when you come. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm going to go explaining this a little bit more, and then we're going to go into how you can see. The numbers, again, they're called gates. Gates are potential personality traits. There are 64 of them. They equate to the 64 codon, the codon 64, which is part of your DNA. So this is really what you're looking at when you look at your chart. You're looking at your DNA. Okay. So if there are two gates connected at either side, they're called a channel. That's a whole different energy. So you have one side, the 12 here, that's one energy. And then you have another side, 22, that's another energy. If they're together, if they're defined together, that's a third energy. It's a whole different one. Okay. Then you have gates that are white. Any gates that are white are called undefined gates. Any gates that are dark on one side, defined on one side, and white on the other is called a hanging gate. Here's where it gets fun. This is your chart. Okay.
Okay.
So, oh, it's the next one. This is a defined gate. This is a defined center. Any centers, if they're colored in, regardless of the color, is what we call defined. It means the energy in that center is consistent all the time. It means that I'll explain this a little bit better in a minute. Hold on. This is the picture of you at birth, the second you entered the world. When you, okay, anything that's white here is considered, I might be actually going too fast on this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Anything that's white that doesn't have any color in it is what we call open. Anything that is white that has a little color in it, like this, is called undefined. But anything that's colored in is defined. And that goes for these as well. This is a defined gate. This is a defined channel. Now, I'm going to go deeper into that too, but if you've ever had your natal chart run in astrology, that is what you'll see here. This is everything in your natal chart you know about yourself. Are you extroverted, introvert? Do you like spicy food? Whatever the things are that you know about yourself. This is why Enneagrams don't work. 3 months before you're born, your soul enters your body, and this is a whole different chart that most people don't know about. These
Hmm.
are all the things about you that you came here to learn about yourself. It's called your incarnation date or your design date. You can see my red and I can see your red, but you don't see your own until you grow into it. So somebody could say, "Oh, you're so talented." And you're like, "No, I'm not." Yes, or somebody might say, "Oh, you're so organized." No, I'm not. You haven't grown into that part yet. You just don't know that about yourself, okay? But you do have it if another person sees it. So you could see theirs. If someone says something to you that you don't recognize, start to contemplate it and think because it is something that you just haven't developed it enough. Now, mind you, we're in our 50s, so we've probably developed a lot of these things already, but these are what you were born with, okay?
Okay.
Now,
Huh.
again, what I said, this is open, this is undefined. Together, here's the crazy thing. So we all have an auric field, okay? Depending
Yep.
on what type you are, will depend on how wide your auric field is. So your auric field is about 7 foot radius. So that means anything or anyone whose auric field enters your auric field, you are engaging in energy sharing. Okay. So anything that you're open in, that you're white in, if someone else is defined in that area, you will take in all their energy that they have, whether they're mature, immature, doesn't matter. And you will feel, or in this case, you would be thinking what they think. You can actually read people's minds because you have an open head center. So you've probably had experiences where somebody was thinking, oh, I want to go to McDonald's for lunch. And you just all of a sudden say, hey, we should go to McDonald's for lunch. And say, I was just thinking that.
Hmm.
Literally, you picked up on their thought and you just verbalized it before they did. So when you're near someone who you know has a defined head center and you're thinking something that you didn't initially think of or that you weren't really thinking of on your own, you can guarantee that person's probably thinking about it.
Oh, wow.
You would have to, yeah,
Okay.
I know it's kind of crazy. So um, the thing is, you're not just taking it in, you're amplifying that out 2 or 3 times as much. So here's where this is a thing for you. Okay. You have an open emotional center. You're what we consider an empath, right? You can
Mhm.
feel people's feelings and besides hearing their thoughts, but you can also feel their fears. So doing what you do, not a surprise that you're a coach at all, not a surprise at all. You can feel when someone walks in your house. I know you've got girls. If your daughter walks in the house and she comes, now let's say she's got a 7 foot radius as well. So that's 14 feet. If she's within 14 feet of you in any direction, your energy fields cross each other. And you feel, if she has a defined emotional center, you feel what she feels. So all of a sudden, let's say she had a bad day with one of her friends at school. You'll feel that angst that she's feeling, but you won't know because no one's told you that you're feeling it. You won't know that it's hers, but now you're feeling it double or triple, right? So she might have just had a disagreement with a girlfriend, but
Mhm.
now you're in the kitchen and you break a nail, and she comes in and she wants to talk to you about her day. Well, that nail breaking is going to be way bigger than it was meant to be, than it would normally be, because you're feeling triple her
Huh.
energy and you're giving it a place and it never fits the place. So now she wants to talk to you and you're just like, no, I just got my nails done. I just broke this. I cannot believe this just happened. And she's just like, I have something important to talk to you about. And you let me just clean this mess up. And literally you're taking on her energy, and then later you'll come back and say, I have no idea why I got so upset about that. I really don't care. I can
Oh,
go get my
wow.
nail fixed. It's not a big deal, you know. But oh, you wanted to talk? What did you want to talk about? And then she's probably irritated because and that's how
Right.
this goes. We do it to each other all the time. but we don't recognize it. So you being an empath like that, when you walk into a grocery store, there's a you don't it doesn't matter if there are walls, doors, or anything. Energy goes through everything. So if there's somebody on another aisle and you're all by yourself on this aisle and they're arguing with their spouse, right? Or they just had an argument and they're thinking about the argument and they're getting upset, you pass through their auric field, you immediately get upset. And you know it's a feeling about a spouse. So if you're married, you all of a sudden say, why am I mad at him? And you think back to the last time you had a fight
Huh.
and you actually give it a place. Now, if you accept that energy, you have to work through it. So that poor person, you're going to go home and you're going to have this talk and he's going to be like, I thought we got over this a week ago. Well, it just started. I was thinking about it again and it's bothered me. It really didn't bother you. It was someone else's energy and you gave it a place. Free will is real. If you say, I do not want to have that experience, the energy must dissipate and go into another form. You can't create energy, you can't destroy it. So if you say, mm-mm, I was not mad at him a minute ago and I'm not accepting that, don't know where it's coming from, you're literally choosing not to have that experience and it will go away and you'll be able to move on with your day without wiping yourself out over somebody else's mess.
Hmm.
Okay?
Wow. Yeah,
So
I'm gonna look my life. I'm looking at my life so differently already just from this. Oh my gosh.
crazy, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So you also have, this is actually funny. You also have a undefined root center. So you have the most important motor, the sacral. So you have consistent energy to get things done, but you may not have that initial adrenaline rush unless you're around somebody else who has that adrenaline rush. And then all of a sudden you're like, let's get this done. Let's go do this. Da, 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 da. And then when you separate from them, you're like, ooh, wow, this is, or halfway through the task, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go check on dinner. I'll be back because it's not your energy. You were faked out. So you were given twice the adrenaline rush and you're just like, no, we got to get this done. Well, let's go do this. Let's all, we're all going to volunteer for this project, da, da, da. And halfway through, you're just like, well, maybe we can just write stuff out for people, and
Uh,
everybody's left doing what it is. So the other thing here is you have the fear. This is the immune system in the fear center. You actually, I saw that you have a connection with children, and you probably, when you're around kids who struggle with different things in life, you feel their fear. You feel their fear of not being enough, not owning up, not being able to buy what they want, not having food, not having any fears processed through your open sacral. So you do have some that are defined, but the fact that this is open itself, you really do take on, especially children, you'll take on that energy and you will feel, you don't know why, you'll just know something's wrong here. Something's not right with this child. This child needs help. This person needs help. And then you'll feel their emotions. You could put the pieces together, but if you're standing in a room full of people, you're feeling everybody's fear. And, you could very easily have social anxiety because of how many open spots you have down here.
hmm.
Do you have any kind of anxiety at all?
No, but I mean, I don't like to be in big groups. I'm not like
That's
uh, that kind of, I'm not like, I wouldn't go to a big concert out in, that all those things don't attract me.
right. And that's because you're open here and here. So you're feeling other people's wounds and you don't want to process them. And you shouldn't. You're absolutely right. You should not process them because they're not yours and they're not here for you to process them. You're very intuitive, extremely intuitive. So we're going to get to that. So this is the aura that I was talking about before. You have a 7-foot radius. The biggest auric field that people have is a pure generator. That is somebody who has an 8-foot radius. Um, the there's debate. I don't know which one is right. They say that the largest radius, what I've been told, is the reflector who has no centers defined, but they have a sampling aura. I have the smallest, from what I understand, which is a manifester. Mine is a repelling aura. It's like 2 to 4 feet because people want to be near me. People want to control me. They want to control a manifester, especially as a child. For whatever reason, manifestors are always seen as out of control, even if they're not. You could be doing the same thing as another kid, you get in trouble and the other kid doesn't. It's because of the energy, right? And the energy
Hmm.
is pushing people away. You are a manifesting generator. That's actually, in my opinion, you see, this is how it goes. So, depending on how wide someone else's auric field is, when it touches yours, that's when you cross energy. If you are near someone who is irritating you, because you've been around them for longer than a few hours, because you're not meant to have consistent energy in the areas that you're white, you're supposed to separate. The best thing to do is to take the largest auric field and double it. So 16 feet radius, stay away from everybody for 16 feet in every direction for at least 20 minutes. Your body will then purge all of the energy that is not yours,
Hmm.
and you're actually able to re-engage with anyone. So that's like a survival guide type thing for that. Now, you being a so generators by themselves are Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, people like that. They are master architects who do things from beginning to end perfectly, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You are a manifesting generator. You can do the same thing as them, only quicker. You're much more efficient at it. So you'd say, we need A and B. We don't need C. We might need to use D. Let's hold off on E. And you just skip steps. Now, the only difference is if you go too fast, you may skip an important step, which generators rarely miss steps because they're so specific. But you're the doer, you're the person who can um, multitask easily, whereas the average person cannot do that. I'm a manifester. There ain't no such thing as multitasking for
Oh,
me.
huh. Okay.
No, no, you're really the only one that can multitask correctly. So what you have, if you're not living your perfect life, it is literally because you are manifesting that. A manifesting generator, in my opinion, has the strongest ability to bring things into their life, okay?
Hmm.
Because you don't need another person. I have an open sacral. So I can bring things into the world from the other side, but I don't have the energy to bring it to fruition, right? I don't have the life force energy. You have that. You have the life force energy and you can bring it in. The only thing you need to make sure that you're following is that you're responding to people. So when I mean by responding, let's say you happen to be watching television and you see a need for some type of a course and you decide, I'm going to develop this course, that's you responding. You've just responded to a need. As long as you're responding to something, you don't have to wait for somebody to say something to you. You just see a need and respond to it. Everything else, and I'm going to tell you, this is why your chart specifically, this is what we call the money line. You're defined there. That will never turn white. If you don't have money coming and going on a regular basis to what you need, it is because you spend more time and I'm not saying that you don't, you may have tons of money. I'm just saying it's because you spend more time worrying about money than
Hmm.
you do being happy for what you're having. Because
Wow.
you are literally manifesting every second of the day. Not everybody is. Not everybody is.
Okay. Huh.
You are. And you have this is a channel going from your throat to one of the motors. And the fact that you have that gives you the ability to speak things into existence. Not the average person doesn't. Okay. So You got so much good stuff on this chart. It's not even funny. So,
Oh, fun. I'm so excited. But it's so true about the worry. Speak into
yeah.
it.
If you worry, what people don't understand is what we're doing is life is an experience. It's not a test. It's not a challenge. It's an experience. You have free will. What free will is, people misinterpret it. Free will means what experience do I want to have and what experience do I not want to have? We think that now imagine a piece of like rotted meat sitting on a kitchen table. You're at one end of the table, I'm at the other. And I say, I don't want to have that because it's disgusting. So I'm going to pass it to you. And you say, I don't want to have that. That's disgusting. And you pass it to me. This is what people do. They think if I don't want to feel the pain, I have to give it to someone else. No, you don't. We can throw that in the trash. Neither of us have to eat it. Neither of us have to have this ugly experience. And that's the problem. People think if you're not happy with a situation, it doesn't mean that the other person has to be unhappy so that you could be happy. You have to just say, no, no, I don't want to have that experience. And the energy must go into another form. Okay. So when you grab hold of that and you understand and you say, oh, well, okay, no, I don't want to have this experience. If I start worrying about one of my kids and I say, oh God, I wish they had friends and they would, just start socializing more and da da da. I'm literally saying to the universe, I want to know what it's like to have my child have no friends. I'm literally saying that to the universe because it's not intellectual. It goes by the emotion we put out. So if we put out the emotion that, oh God, this is horrible, and it would be so sad if he didn't have any friends, then the universe says, oh, that's what you want to experience? Okay, so we're going to take some people away and make him get bullied and stuff like that. Literally, you're doing that. And because you have a cord, we have a cords attached to everybody. We're all attached. Your cords are thicker with the people that you're related to, especially that you've given birth to. Every time you think or worry about something about your child, you are pinging them as if you're on a network and you're sending that thought to them. They get the thought, they have free will. They have the ability to say, no, I don't want that thought. But you worry about them enough and you're sending them these thoughts, all of a sudden it becomes a thing that they worry about. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, why don't I have any friends? Why don't these people like me? What's going on? And now you're pushing their momentum in the negative and they're following because they're accepting this thought because it's hit them so much. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how energy works. So when you catch yourself thinking about something about your children, about people that you love, literally, if you cannot stop yourself, don't think about them at all because it's better to neutralize it than to
Hmm.
continue it. But if you can, what I do is I start journaling and I start writing things like, and my son's name is Anthony. I'm like, Anthony's doing so well. He's met so many people. He's been laughing so much. I hear him on the phone with people. Of course, I hear him every now and then say a curse, but that's okay. But I go into this whole deep thing. Like I'm so excited that because as I'm saying this, I'm creating the emotion that it's already happened. So I'm
Right.
manifesting without, trying to. So because if you try to manifest, in the positive and all you're doing is worrying that you're not manifesting in the positive, you're actually manifesting in the negative.
Got
Okay.
it.
So it's a
Wow.
little tricky, but especially when it comes to our kids, don't worry about your children. Believe that they have it down, and I promise you they're going to be lifted with that. Now, you having the money line is crazy enough. You have the 14. 14 is all about bringing money into you as well. You should have absolutely no problem with money whatsoever. You should have money flowing in and out all the time. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, um, that doesn't mean that what some people don't get is that when it comes to money, you need it to go out as much as it comes in because if it just sits in the bank, it doesn't do anything, right? So investing is important. Um, you know, Giving to charity is important. investing in other people is important because that's how the universe can give you more. People think that if they put $20 in the bank, that, I want more. I'm doing good with my money. No, that's not how the universe sees it. They see take that $20 out and give it to somebody who needed to get a meal. Then the next time you turn around, you're going to get $40 because, you've offered it in an energetic, positive way to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you also have these are the three channels that you have. You have the discovery, acceptance, and the money line. And I think I have these. Okay, so that one's where acceptance is. That's where the money line is. And that's where discovery is. Girl, when I tell you discovery, this is Oprah Winfrey's line. You have the same thing that she has. What I mean by that is you can do things that the average person just can't.
Really?
Yes. Yes. And if you don't accept that, it will show up. Everything has duality. If you don't accept that you can do this, you will fail at things that other people succeed at.
Hmm.
So there's duality to everything. There's a lot of people don't recognize this. They think that if something shows up in their chart and it looks like a challenge, that, oh, they're just going to have a hard time there in life. No. Mars is a very combative planet, which we're seeing right now. It's in retrograde. But Mars can either be conflict or it could be ambition. And so you, with having so much conflict in your chart, you're using that. If you use that, that energy is there to use whatever you want it for. If you choose to do nothing because the world is at such a low vibration, it will choose the negative for you and you will end up having conflict with people. If you take that energy and you say, no, I am going to change this world. I want to make this happen. This is what I'm going to do. You're taking that same energy and you're being ambitious with it. So it's what we choose to do with it is how it happens. Now, look up here. You have a 6-2. The six is conflict. That's in your sun. The six is conflict down here, and the six is conflict down here. You have it in three different areas. Now, I'm going to go on to the next one just so you can see. So I'm going to skip this. You know what a manifesting generator is. You have the sacral, um, you have the undefined solar plexus. I went into that, the gut instinct. Okay. 70% of who you are comes from both suns and both earths. Okay. So this is how this works. I don't know. Do you know anything about neutrinos?
No.
Okay. So neutrinos in 2015, um, two scientists got an award for finding the new smallest item that can be weighed as matter, and it's called neutrinos. What it is it's these itty bitty particles that come from the sun. 70% of them come from the sun, 30% come from Jupiter and the stars. So 70% of who we are. Now, this is where we get into the collective consciousness. So imagine every time you have a thought, your thought is energetic. It goes out. Okay, now imagine we're all standing in a space and there's all these thoughts going around in our head, right? So now I'm going to use a stupid example, but let's say I'm outside trying to mow my lawn before they had cordless mowers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep running over my cord. I wish they would just make something that didn't have a cord, right? So I could mow my lawn. Well, around this time, most people are experiencing the same type of stuff because it's getting frustrating. So people from all different walks of life, from all different countries are having those thoughts and they're going into the collective consciousness. So what happens is the neutrinos come from the sun, they absorb the form of whatever the questions are from the collective consciousness, and they go through our bodies, 3 billion a second go through our bodies. They go through the walls, they go through the dogs, they go through everything. Anybody who is set up, whose chart is set up where they're here to invent something, they're going to latch on to those little particles and say, you know what? I should make something that, I'm sure I can make something that there's, no cord to that people could mow their lawn, right? You and I, it'll just flush through our body because we don't care about that stuff. It's not important. But you ever notice that when there's an invention, just like AI, it all of a sudden comes out at the same time all over the world? It's because the neutrinos went through the collective consciousness and through each one of us, and whoever in the world wanted
Huh.
to create something like this would do that. And so this is how we move forward. So 70% of who you are is these two, okay? Or these four, I should say. Notice your 26 is part, oh no, that's not it. Your 26 is here. Your 26 is part of it's actually called it's like being a salesperson. You can convince people of things that the average person can't convince them. Okay.
Right.
I could say the sky is blue, you could say the sky is orange, and they would probably agree with you before me because you have the ability to convince them. Now, notice here there's a number next to the gate number. So gate 26.6. So the line, that's what we call the line. There are six options, six different lines to every gate. So let's say you are a 26, you're a good salesperson. A 26.1 and a 26.6 are two totally different things. It's how you live it out. So let's say it's about a salesperson, right? A 26.1 would be all about investigating about sales. They would want to do the research. They would want to understand the studies. They would be somebody who would be really into the nitty gritty, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to sell. They just want to process the information and learn about it. Then there's a 26, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you get to the sixth line encompasses all of the lines and it looks forward to the next line, I'm sorry, to the next gate. So sixes are very powerful. Remember, I told you you're a 6-2. This is where you get those numbers from. A 6 line here and a 2 line here. You're a role model hermit. So you take the information, you process it yourself. People recognize that you know what you're talking about, and you role model it for people. And these are the most important things. I'm going to ask you something. I just noticed something pretty funny, actually. Oh, and two. You have 18.3 and an 18.6. You have a lot of strange people coming up to you, just trying to talk to you out of nowhere for no reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your 18.
Okay.
So let me tell you something about this 18. 18 is, it's not something that you do, it's an energy that you hold. So when you're around someone's auric field, people who feel lost in the world, I have the 18 as well. People who like maybe they're addicts, maybe they just have been just tossed away. You, your energy enters their field and they automatically recognize the potential of good in them. You could be
Hmm.
standing next to a murderer and they would feel better about themselves. They don't know why. It's nothing you're
Mhm.
saying, but all of a sudden they start
Huh.
gravitating towards you and they just want to talk to you about anything. They'll talk to you about the French fries that you just bought. They'll talk to you about the shoes. They'll talk about anything that you make them recognize that they can do better. And
Hmm.
that's huge. That's really huge. So, and you have it in two places, two very important places. So you have it in your moon, and you have it as a 6. That's crazy. And you have it in your south node, which is your strength, in a 3. So you have a lot of trial and error here too. But I don't want to go too far off course. I know this is a lot. Are you keeping up okay so far?
Oh yeah. Love this. My goodness.
Good. I told you it's not like the average reading. So you have you have a 45.6 as well and a 36.2. I want to go to, so I went through this. The gate here in your sun is a 6. The line is a 2. So what I did was, this is your personality trait and this is the way it shows up in your life. There are six different potentials. So what I did was I broke this down for you. This is where I'm saying I'll read this, but you can go over this on your own time because I know that there's so much that I'm giving you. There's just no way to keep up with it. Gate 26 is called the sacred salesman. In action, you believe in an abundant future for everyone. Keywords here is seeing a brighter future, selling, and integrity. The line six here is called authority, the natural attainment of influence justified by the correctness of action. This line is exalted in this position. So you see that little arrow here? That actually says that you just happen to have that planet in that place where it is actually supercharged, right? Exalted or in detriment. So you have stuff that's in detriment too. This is here in detriment. So
Hmm.
it's just a little more challenging than if it didn't have anything. And this is actually a little better than if it didn't have anything. That's all that means. Uh,
Okay.
the six here on the red side is the gate of conflict. It symbolizes the process of growth through conflict and resolution. Okay, your second line is called the gorilla. There's two ways that it can show up. Having a sensitivity to find the weakest point in a conflict and exploit it emotionally, or having a lack of sensitivity that blunders into conflict. So this is because this is how you get your conflict. It's saying either I don't get from you personally that you exploit anybody emotionally. So if it had to work itself out, it would be more than you might at some points have a lack of sensitivity, and that it would just end up turning into conflict. And then you'd stop yourself and you may think it could be other people blundering without sensitivity and causing you to have conflict. It doesn't mean it's necessarily you, it could be the other way around. um, that's how your conflict would come out in just in this case. So you have a two here, but you have a one here, and then you have a three here. So it would come out in many different ways. Now, I just said here, note that you have it both sides of Pluto, which means you realize transformation mainly through conflict. You have these two different lines, one and three, which have different meanings. So that's basically what I was saying. Now, you have the 45, the gate of gathering together. You have, again, a lot of really, really good gates. The line, this is the gate of the tribal leader. It is the true manifestation gate. I don't have this, and I'm a manifester. You have literally, so having this whole channel along with the 4629 and along with the fact that you have the sacral, you literally speak things out into existence every second of the day. Every
Huh.
so it you don't I don't even think you realize how powerful you are. I don't think
Hmm.
you I think if you want something to happen, please verbalize it. The reason is your thoughts take energy, but our voices, if you notice in the caveman days, people just grunted because a grunt would bring certain things to them. We have gotten to more conversational places with language, but we don't realize that we have to speak it to cause the vibration to go out to allow it to find its way to us. So when we're thinking, it is so much more less um, manifesting than if we speak it, especially because you have the throat connected to the will center. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is called the reconsideration. It is the only line in this gate that understands that we need to integrate with outsiders to ensure the tribal lineage doesn't die off. Therefore, it reconsiders outsiders who they may have rejected at an earlier point. So you probably are you may say to somebody, no, I don't want to have this on my show. But then later on, you may think it over and say, you know what? It's just a different way of looking at it. It may not be the way I look at it, but it's a different angle. So I might want to bring it in and at least, give it a toss and see what happens. Because when people are fundamentalists, they're always trying to push out all the other types. Well, we're supposed to evolve into different beings. And the only way to evolve is to take in the newer types and combine with them as opposed to pushing them away. And you have that ability.
Hmm.
So you have a lot of really nice things. That's what I'm saying. The whole fact that you have conflict doesn't mean that you cause conflict. You've probably been a very sweet person most of your life and had people like say things that were totally unexpected that you're just like, what in the world did I do to cause that? Right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
because the conflict has to happen with you because that's what you chose to do in your everyday. You chose to learn what do you want? What will I? Are you like the friend of the friendless, where like in school you would be friends with people who everybody was not being friends with, so they
Hmm.
stand up for them? Yeah, that's exactly what your chart is saying. So
Huh.
it's good.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
So your Earth, your 36-2 is an emotional gate. It's called the gate of crisis. Okay. And you have the support line in it. It means that you support others in times of need from your chaotic life experiences, which is exactly what you do on your on your podcast. So on point with this. So here you get now I'm going to go into that is the gist of human design as far as understanding when people come and go. I want to show, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to that. Um, so human design, it gives you a grand idea of when other people enter your auric field, how you change, and if you know if you want to purge that or whatever to step away a certain distance. Now, what we get into is gene keys, and the gene keys are much more specific on which gates, they call them gene keys, on which gene key serves what purpose in your life. So you saw where they all were in the planets on the sides from the other, right?
Right.
Okay, so these are all the planets. So each one of these holds a different place, and depending, so no, you don't know what 36-2 is. I tell you here, 36 is the emotional gate called the gate of crisis. But then I say you're here to support others, but in what aspect of your life? So we go to the gene keys to find that out. So
Oh.
yeah, so there are three different paths here. The first path is anything with green in it. It goes across this way. It is your genius sequence. It is who you are, your life purpose, things like that. Then you have your relationship path, which is they call it your Venus sequence. That is relationships, whether it's your parents, your children, your spouse, your coworkers. It's just how you relate to other people. And then you have your prosperity sequence, which is anything with blue. So some of them cross over into two of them. And what you do is prosperity is all about health, wealth, joy, peace, all the good stuff. It's not just money, right?
Hmm.
So what I wanted to show you here was your gate, remember gate 26, line 6 here in life's work says that you're a teacher.
Hmm.
If you're living in the shadow, you would be prideful. This second line moving up, or I should say third line, is considered your gift. It's when you're living your life the right way in your life's work, you're artful. And then there's the city, which is SIDDHI. That's like your utopian world. If everything was the best that it could be and everybody was living at this great place, you would have the gift of invisibility. That said, they all mean something different. If you are living outside of your shadow and in your gift, in all three of these areas, your vibration is at a point where things will start to gravitate towards you like a vortex, and you will start to receive all of your prosperity through here. And see, your prosperity comes through 18. So we were just talking about 18. You literally, and this is simplicity. So your life, you literally just have to live a simple life. If you're living your vibration at, in all three of those areas, to have everything come to you, that you're asking for. Do you ever hear when people say, "Oh, you're manifesting stuff, it's just not getting to you"? Well, it's not getting to you because your vibration isn't meeting what it's vibrating at. And in order to do that for you, you need these specific three things. Mine are different. So your
Okay.
vocation is 29.3. You can be half-hearted, right? You're here, you're supposed to have strategy and have commitment and devotion. But if you're living half-hearted in your vocation, then you're not living the way you're supposed to get what you're asking for. Then over here, if you're feeling oppressed, you're not living in your gift here of transmutation or transfiguration. You're supposed to do this in partnership. Over here, teacher, you're supposed to be teaching people what you do. And as long as you're not being prideful and you're being artful, you're living those three. Those are your specific three. And then the stuff starts to come in through here.
Hmm.
Okay. So now, what I found to be the most important one is the Venus sequence. And again, this is stuff that I just put on here for you to look at later, but your purpose is hidden within your DNA. Um, your purpose is the gate of crisis, right? It's located in the solar plexus center. That's the emotional center. Even though yours isn't defined, that's still where yours is. It symbolizes the capacity to navigate emotional crisis and use them to as opportunities for growth and transformation. Those with this gate activated possess a unique ability to find meaning and purpose in challenging situations, often emerging stronger and wiser from their experiences. So this is literally your purpose in relationships, in all your relationships. Okay. So now I'm going to move up to the different sections of relationship and give you an idea as to why things happen and how you can work with them. So your purpose here, if you're not living your purpose out right, through the crisis, doing the crisis the way you're supposed to learn from it, you'll feel turbulence in your life. Okay. And if you're actually living it, understanding how humanity works with compassion, that is how you're living your gift and above. And I mean, doing what you do with the podcast, I see that very easily. Your attraction, which is the second sequence up, I should say, yeah, sphere up, is all about it's all about chemistry. It's your uh, love or sexual attraction to someone. So maybe your spouse or your boyfriend. Yours is the gate of details. So you have a line too, which shows itself as either lust or passion. Lust would be on the shadow side, passion would be on the gift side. So this is an interesting one. I have this too, but not here. Intellect is not the same as intelligence. Intellect is using the mind to kind of mess with people, right? So usually people with this line they're very attractive because in this lust and passion, they can use um, sex as a weapon, right? That it doesn't necessarily mean that you do. It could be other people using it towards you as a weapon, depending on which line you have, right? But this one is all about, and I wrote something specific that I wanted to tell you. You can be blind to your own feelings or the feelings of others. This line can hide behind its sexuality, usually very attractive people, to avoid feeling inadequate in other areas of their life. So, make sense?
Hmm.
Again, we're in our 50s, so you might not be dealing with this, but
Yeah, right.
in your 20s, you probably, we're all putting our makeup and hair and stuff, and you could all. So this is another way to look at it. You could feel inadequate or liberated. Um, okay, so I'll let you read that at another time. I told you I just added stuff. So this is getting cool now. So remember I told you that each section of our life is in 7-year sections. So 0 to 7, 8 to 14, 15 to 21. I put 14 to 21 on here. But this is your IQ, your intelligence quotient. So your IQ is actually in 41.4. I cannot tell you how amazing that is.
Really?
41 is the start codon. It is the only start codon. That means, and this is science, it literally tells, it's the beginning of life. The gate 41 is the beginning of life. It's all about bringing things into the world. I mean, it's huge. And the fact that you have a 4 there tells me that you're not just bringing things into the world for you, you're bringing things into the world for everyone. It's all about community. It's nothing about you is selfish,
Oh.
nothing. So if anybody ever tells you that, they are so full of it and they don't know you.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a word that they would use to describe me.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I love
Honor
that.
your hopes and dreams in action as long as you're doing that because I don't want to get into that until we get to it. Okay, keywords, hopes, dreams, felt experiences, transformation, and divine timing. Um, you have what we call the influential mind. Mine in here, I think mine is the flexible mind, but the influential mind is really important because you have a mind that when you know something needs to be done or something needs to happen, no one can change your mind. You're going to do what you feel needs to be done, right?
Right.
So I'm flexible, but people can change my mind if they can, convince me different. They cannot convince you different.
Mm-mm.
You know what you know.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, all right. And you're here to be influential. That's literally what you're here to be. You're here to, so being on the podcast is exactly where you need to be.
Hmm.
So your EQ is your emotional quotient. And now this is important because when you get to this, it is between the ages, he says 7 and 14. It's really like, anyway, um, between 7 and 14 is when you learn where your boundaries are. Okay. And what most people don't know is all of our wounds are set in us before we're born, and they are set to be triggered at different times in our life. So, your boundary emotional wound is meant to be triggered between 7 and 14. So that means, let's say your trigger is, I want to, I want to know about I want to know more about people pushing my sexual boundaries. All right. I'm just throwing an idea out. Between 7 and 14, I will have an experience where someone molests me or someone violates me in some way. And that depending on how that is handled by me and my family and anyone involved will determine how I handle boundaries from there on. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's the trigger. Now,
Wow.
if something almost happens but doesn't happen, something else will cause it to trigger. So that's why people are like, well, I always kept them away from these people because I thought they were bad, and yet then their father did this because it was supposed to happen, and anybody
Yeah.
who can cause it to happen is going to trigger that in them. Okay. So, but you can help your child get past that. It's when people just brush things under the rug, that's when there's a problem. Now, your EQ is 32, and your line is 1, which is self-esteem, self-sabotage. That's mine too. So, you either have good self-esteem or you self-sabotage. Okay. And you have fear of failure. Well, I should say that was what you had growing up. Whether or not you have that anymore is up to where you are. But what you have here is your gift is preservation. Preserving the gift of who you are is extremely important. Because you're here, you have the sense and you have the sense to lead successful community change. So you're here. So remember, how do I say this the best? If you're in a tribe in Uganda, and and I know these things happen and they're horrible, and people um let's just say they beat their children when they do something wrong to try to keep them in line, right? Well, your job would be here to say, no, this is not how we're going to do this anymore. I want to preserve our culture. So, to preserve our culture, we're going to work with these kids on doing the right thing without beating them. Okay. So it's preserving what you have by making changes in the community. So what you're doing on your podcast, you're pretty much doing that, right? I want to preserve these children that are coming up. I want to preserve the community. So I'm going to enlighten them on all these new things that are out there to help them move in the right direction a little easier because that's what's out there and that's
Hmm.
what we do. And
Wow.
that's spot on for who
Right.
you are.
Right. Wow.
And there's more for you to read. This one is the spiritual quotient. This one comes up until age 7. Okay. And this is all about, again, this is really unconscious. It's more of family influence, possibly some educational influence. Yours is all about belonging. Did something happen when you were young? Did your parents divorce?
Hmm.
Okay.
Twice. Married twice, divorced twice.
Okay. So something like this could be somebody getting adopted, somebody losing a parent at very young, or a divorce is happening. So it rocked your world before you were 7 because you now wonder, where do I belong? I mean, I don't have the same situation as everybody else. Why am I different? So um, you look for family in the unusual things. You look for it like your friends, your coworkers, your siblings or cousins may be closer to you than or not your siblings, your cousins may be closer to you than your siblings. You look to form the family that you feel you should have, but you go further out to get it because you weren't given that at a young age.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Okay. But this here, because of it, you have great intuition, great instinct, clarity, and inner knowing. You know who is going to fill a space for you and who is not, who should be part of your tribe. The thing with this is you can actually get along with a lot of people from a lot of different groups, even if those people don't get along with each other. Everybody's
Hmm.
very welcoming to you, but you might not want to have a party with the two groups, but because they
Right.
don't like each other, but everybody likes you. Okay. Your core is your core or your vocation. That is what we call your vocation is the 29. That's half of the one I was talking about with Oprah. So
Okay.
this is important. So you have strategy here. This is implementation. You are literally here to implement things. It is very important that you don't do things half-hearted. I don't get that you do. Having commitment and devotion to make things happen as you see fit is how this world will change. People like you can do that. I don't have the 29. You have it in action, which is the 3. That means that you do have a lot of trial and error, but you are meant to be committed. So your commitment would be, I am committed to helping our community grow in, self-worth. So you may try many different things. You may try different classes, different, schedules on your channel, all different things, but you're committed to the end result that the information you give is going to do that. That is what you do every single day, every single day. The shadow of your core wound holds back a great deal of your hidden potential. There are layers of karmic memory to burn through with your awareness. So you have the 3. The 3 is called shame or humor. So when you were younger, you may have struggled with when you did something that didn't come to fruition, you would feel ashamed. But now you probably laugh through it like, oh my God, did you see what I just did? Oh my God, that was so funny. That's
Okay.
more of how this would play out. But this is all from birth. to 7. So this is something that is so deeply ingrained, you probably don't even notice it a lot. It's something that your commitment to making things happen, your strategy, these are all really, really deeply ingrained things. It's like the beginning of life, I should say. Let me see. Okay. So that was Gene Keys, and I only did one path on the Gene Keys. But
Wow.
have you, am I taking up too much of your time?
No, but I'm worried about you. I don't want
Nope,
to take
nope.
up.
I blocked out a bunch of time for this. I tend
Okay.
to do this. I go over because I have so much to talk about. Now this is your natal chart. If you don't know this now, girl, this lifetime is all about you. Have you ever seen that? Has anybody ever shown you your chart?
No.
Oh my gosh. The first house is literally all about the person, you. You have a huge stellium here. This is all of these planets, and it's all about relationship because it's in Libra. You have Libra rising. Right here, you have Pluto. Pluto's all about transformation. Something has to die for something to be reborn. You have it in the 12th house. So you probably, without knowing it, because this is where you were born, you probably self-sabotaged a lot in your life. You probably looking back on things, you realize if I didn't make that decision, none of that would have happened. If I,
Uh-uh.
that's literally because that is how you're supposed to transform. So everything that happened for a reason. There's not one thing that happens in your life that wasn't supposed to happen. Everything that happened. So if you ever thought you made bad decisions, don't think that. You set it up that way. You set it up to learn from your mistakes. So you're actually absolutely perfect. Your South Node, how was the last 18 months of your life?
This last 18 months,
Mhm.
right when I was 55, you mean?
Yeah,
Amazing.
it was good.
Hmm.
That is really good news because you have your south node here in Libra and your north node is here in Aries. We literally like days ago, 2 days ago, the north node moved into Pisces. That's my rising. Your north node, it just came out. This goes backwards. So it just came out of Aries. So anything that is such a great testament to the fact that you've owned what you've done. If you had the 18 months of your North Node in that sign and you had an amazing time, you've pretty much dealt with a lot of your karma. That's
Oh,
very
wow.
impressive. Yeah, that's very impressive. I got to be honest, especially because you have Saturn here, and Saturn is this is like the death degree. This is horrible. This degree is very, very, I have it in my ascendant. 18, they say it's like the devil's degree. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I agree with it, but that's what they're saying. But you have that. Saturn is so much about making sure you dot your I's and you cross your T's. What did I just do? Oh, let me go back one. Okay. So you notice here how you have a lot of red here and here going this
Hmm.
way? This is your natal chart. This is from when you were born. This is a very challenging chart because anything in red is like, it's almost like, okay, you can go to the supermarket, but it's going to be snowing as opposed to Johnny's going to go to the supermarket and it's going to be sunny and, clear and, and you're going to go with no shoes or socks on. So you could still get there, but it's going to be a little more of a challenge to you. Do you see how many red marks you have? This is a grand cross. You signed up for a difficult journey. You did.
Huh.
You signed up for a really difficult one, but I love this. This is your Black Moon Lilith. It is where you decide to stand up for yourself and say, no more, no more. I know who I am. I don't need anybody else to tell me who I am. I know what I believe. This is your self-esteem, and this is in your beliefs. And it's pointing to your part of fortune, which is your luck. Now, here's how crazy this is. You do a podcast. This is the house of communication. this is your Mercury, which is also about communication. And this is your Sun, which is your joy. You literally, through all the difficult, whatever difficult tasks there were, you said, I know what I believe. I know what is true. And I don't care when anybody says, I'm going to say it to the world.
Huh.
That's literally what that says. You have, um, okay. So I want you to see that now, right? Now I want you to see this. This is your chart this year. Look at how much blue there is. And I want you to see this. Pay attention to these. These are called grand trines. You have one, you have two there. You have another one here. Grand trines are, oh, you even have a kite. Just see how this looks like a kite going this way?
Yes.
These are easy aspects. You're going to have a good year. There's no reason that you shouldn't have a good year. This is very, even your transformation. So Pluto is in Aquarius for the next 19 years. So you're going to be in the ninth house for the next 19 years. This is all about your beliefs. This is about love and money. It's all about your income. This is literally saying that through your beliefs, you're going to be making a lot of money and you're going to
Hmm.
be transforming. So, whatever you're doing right now, I know you've been doing it for 5 years, but you're probably going to start to transform what you do into something even bigger
Okay.
because this is your career and your career is in this house or your transformation is happening. Notice it's pointing to your strength, which is your south node, and it's pointing over here to this is your emotions, your own emotions. This is you, and this is Gemini. Gemini is also very, oops, my goodness. Gemini is very spiritual. So what I notice here, see, this is interesting. Have you been having a lot of fun in your life lately?
Fun? Yeah, fun.
Creative
I,
fun?
I choose to have fun.
Well, the reason I'm asking, I don't know what your childhood was with friends and groups, but this is where your wound was in the 11th house, which is this is also your destiny, which is your north node, and it's very ambitious because it's in Aries. You see, it's a challenging aspect to hear, but once again, this is where you say no more. I'm going to do what I want to do my way. So you're actually walking through this path this year from your creativity, your children. You're going to probably have, how old are your kids?
16 and 18.
Oh, yeah. So you're probably going to end up having more fun with them. You may be traveling more with them, doing something innovative, and you're going to be taking whatever wound you brought into the world and talking about it in large groups,
Okay.
transforming in large groups. You got a great setup. I mean, truly a great setup. And this is really good for health because this is health and daily life, and this is your part of fortune. So it's your luck in this right here. So that's really good. You need to understand, I mean, truly, everything I just read, I don't know how you lived your life, but you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Wow.
So you should be there's very rare that I get to this point and have
Oh,
that
wow.
positive. I mean, true, and I don't usually, I've did like four readings in this one, but I wanted you to really understand how powerful this is. Your chart is, you're living your chart. You could have had this as a child and you couldn't have done any better. I mean, literally, you're living out your life the way you're meant to.
Oh, wow. I love that. Gosh, what a uh what's the word? Not clarity, but what it's no, you like it's like I know when I feel so good about like this podcast thing or teaching the kids and going and talking to I go to these classes and when you talk about the children thing, I was just there last week and I just tune into these kids and I just have it's like you just give me so much it's just knowing that when I do have that feeling that I am on doing the right thing, that I
You
am
are.
doing my soul's purpose.
Absolutely, 100%. And most people these days, if you chose to be here now, these 3 years are really, really pivotal for change and not because we're coming from top down, like the hierarchies, we're going to, I don't know if I'm saying it right, heterocy or hierarchy, across. We're moving into that. Anybody who is in a leadership role right now in this climate is meant to do great things. So if you made it this far, hold on to your seat because things are going to go so much faster, but you're in the right place, exactly the way you're supposed to be. I have no doubt whatsoever you're changing lives left and right. No doubt.
You've given me tears a few times
Oh,
because it makes me feel so good. I just, it's like, you think of my, when you say your childhood and all the things that, and how I chose that, right? And it's so true. And how I, teach children. What drew me to children was I didn't have that. And now, now it's like with my girls for sure. It's like in 2020 when I started the podcast, I didn't know why I did it. Just said something told me you got to do it. And I said, my husband thought I was crazy because I have a fifth grader and an eighth grader, and I was driving. It's like, when do you have time for that? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to do it. I don't even know how to do it. I didn't even have a computer.
right,
And then we had the
right.
lockdown the 2 days after, and I go pick my kids up at school, and I go, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have all the time in the world, and I get to use one of their computers
Yeah.
because they're gonna be home.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. Because most people don't get it. Most people don't get that the universe actually answers your questions. I can't call it God because the way it was portrayed to me in church was a person sitting on a throne,
Right,
and it's an entity. It's all of, all the energy. And so when I understand it like that, it's easier for me to understand how it can get to all the different places at once. Ask and it is given is real. When you ask for something, most people don't realize you get your answer within 3 days. And this was going back to biblical days. 3 days, you get it over and over again until either it fades out or you ask more questions. But most people don't pay attention to the answers. So the answers come to you in epiphanies, or like we have computers now. So if you had the thought that you should do the podcast and you say, "Well, should I do this podcast?" All of a sudden, when you go online and you start looking up recipes, you're going to see things about how to start your podcast, or, this is a book on speaking in public, or, people don't realize because what you'll get nowadays is you'll get like a dog food commercial pop up. And if you don't have a dog, it's catching your attention, click on it. Most people think, well, I don't have a dog, I shouldn't do it. If something catches your attention, it's for a reason. So if you click on it, 2 or 3 clicks down the line, there's your answer.
right,
You follow the little crumb trail, you will get to your answer. But when you don't follow it and then you say, why does God hate me? Nobody hates you. You're getting all these answers. You just don't want to go through the trouble of
right,
figuring out how it all comes together? And I've learned a fail safe. If you write your question out and then after 3 days you don't remember hearing the answer, go back and read your question. And literally, the universe puts in my head the conversations I had that answered it, the books I saw, the commercials I saw, the songs I heard, everything that answered my question. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I missed all of that. So, I mean, it's just life is supposed to be so much easier than we make it. We just make it that much more difficult. It's
right,
not supposed to be.
right. Yeah, I love that so much. Oh my gosh, Jeannie, you're
So I hope this was
amazing.
helpful.
Oh my gosh, beyond. It's like I'm sitting here and then I think, I can't wait to interview you. Um, and then I think, gosh, because I was writing notes, so I remember things to ask. But, it's like I can just tell there's so much depth in what you, do. And there's so many things we could talk about. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I can't wait. So I wanted you to see because when I say what I do, people really don't get it, grasp it, and how deep it can go. And it does go much deeper, but I wanted you to have a real full
Thank
idea
you.
of what I did so that when you talk to me, you get an
Yeah.
idea of what direction I'll go
Oh,
with
I
it.
so appreciate. Yes, I love it so much. Um, like even the human design thing,
Mhm.
but I've never understood it like you explained it.
Thank
And
you.
I've always, there's something like you said, like follow the bread. I always say follow the breadcrumbs. This thing about gene keys. I interviewed a guy a few months ago and does the gene. And I kept hearing gene keys, gene keys, gene keys. I need to get the book Gene Key. I even looked it up on Amazon a couple months before Christmas, thinking maybe I'll get the Gene Keys book. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No surprises. Yeah. If you get the Gene Key book, make sure that you get the three other sequence books, the love sequence, the genius sequence, and the um, prosperity sequence, because you'll find through the gene keys that you'll get the answers for the keys themselves, but not for the positions in the gene key in the sequence. So you won't know. So like when I explain it, I was explaining how this works in the position that it's in. If you have a 62 in your love position, in your attraction position, or you have a 62 in your vocation, it's going to act different. So even though they're the same gene key, you need to know
Oh, okay.
one and which line it's working in that. Yeah. So I'm just giving you a heads up. You don't have to remember any of that. As you start to learn it, you'll say, wait a minute, there are pieces missing. And then you'll know that you need to get something else. But yeah,
Okay.
that's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's crazy.
But just even the fact that I feel so good about my life right now,
Awesome.
just
I'm so glad. I'm so
just
glad.
that alone, it's like, wow, I'm doing pretty good.
You did very well. You did, and your kids are probably they're gonna be amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine because I know what it's like to have all this struggle. My sister, because I have those sixes as well in transformation, my sister's an elder of a church, or she was, and she actually said, you must not be living your life the way you're saying that you are, or you must have done horrible things in a past life because nobody has luck like you do unless they've done something wrong. And she like distanced herself from me. I have one sibling and she totally distanced herself from
Oh,
me.
wow.
Yeah, my middle daughter was 8 and she was molested by my father, who I had to put in jail. And
Oh,
my sister
dear
called
God.
me up that day and said, I don't feel like God's telling me I should get involved. I think you're just supposed to deal with this with mom by yourself. Totally left us out there. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So,
Wow.
yeah. So when I tell you, I know what it's like to have that, conflict there to change. I do. I have a very strong. Now my chart has the 6124, so I actually hear things from the other side. But I don't have the energy that you do. So like I need people like you to help me push things forward. Otherwise, I just sit here and drool on myself. Oh, I've got these great ideas,
Oh, funny.
you know what I'm saying? It's just your type. So but yeah, I knew when I saw those sixes, I was like, oh, I know that you went through something. I know
Huh.
something. So, and not
Wow.
just one thing. This is a regular thing. So,
Huh. Interesting.
yeah,
Gosh, that was so good. I'm
I'm
so
so glad.
excited. Oh, and
Yes.
how did you meet? How did Carol find you?
Oh, funny. Carol, she, when I was doing mediumship, she came to me with her sister and her grandson. I think he had passed, I don't even know if it was a year yet. He was 11 when he passed. And when she came to me, the first thing I said was, this person said it was their fault that they passed. And she was like, no, it wasn't. And I said, well, she's saying she's sorry and it was her fault that she passed. And she said, it's a girl. I said, yeah. She goes, no. And then her sister said, it's his mother. His mother passed a year before of a drug overdose.
Oh, oh, she did?
And she was not letting him come through until she
Oh,
cleared
wow.
the way. It was the craziest experience. I had never had that happen before. And then he came through and he is so strong of a spirit. I mean, he gave me specifics. There was just no way. There's no way
Wow.
you could know the stuff. She was just like, I mean, we've done so many things. And I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, she comes to me. We go to lunch, and we're friends too now. But her family was like, she's taking advantage of you and stuff. And I did a lot of her stuff for free too. So it was just like, I wasn't doing anything like that. If he came through, I'd just call her up and tell her because he was like spot on. I mean, spot
Wow.
on. So she just kept coming back and we just became friends and she's
Oh,
everything she does. I mean, he is truly one of the strongest spirits I've ever felt. And he took my arms one time. It really freaked me out because I've never had anybody do that before. He took my arms and did something with them. I can't remember. I think she had his hand. They did a mold of his hand and when he was in the hospital and it was like actually his hand and I would touched it and all of a sudden I could feel my arms weren't mine anymore, like I couldn't move them. That freaked me out. That
oh, wow.
was crazy. But yeah, other than that, I mean, most of the stuff I've dealt with before, but that was a first. I don't even know if that ever happened again, to be honest with you. That might have been the only one. But yeah, it was some crazy stuff. I've had some really, really crazy stuff. So
Wow. And you're not married.
this is crazy. I am divorced and dating my husband, my ex-husband. So,
You are?
yeah, we lived together, but so what happened was, he was a horrible drug addict and
Oh, geez.
really horrible person. And, but I was determined because I was Catholic, you stay, honor thy mother, father, and everybody else. But I finally just said no. But when I got into this, he started he stopped drinking and no, he stopped using. And all of a sudden just started getting interested because we used to go to church together and everything. AA didn't help, NA didn't help, nothing helped. And then I started telling him about astrology and all this other stuff. And he started understanding his life and
Hmm.
understanding why things happen. I mean, he would bawl when I'd say, during this time in your life, these were your boundaries and someone, you know, stepped over your boundaries and he just lost it. And he was like, I mean, things came out that never came out before. And he was just like, this makes so much sense. And so it was years, but my daughter had started getting in trouble, my middle one, because of what happened to her. She struggled at 17. And so I asked him to move in to help
Oh,
me
wow.
with her. And just as, he had his own bedroom and stuff, but we were back in the house together for 2 years. And then we started dating and then we told everybody. So everybody's really
Oh,
happy.
oh, wow. I love that. What a neat story.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. And she's 20 and she's in her second year of college being a psychologist.
Okay.
She's at App State and my son's in college to be a business major. And my oldest 26-year-old, she graduated and she's in property management. So I can
Huh.
ask for anything better.
Oh,
I love everything that I do in my life. At first, everybody was looking at me like, you're what? You're doing what?
oh, funny,
Now
I'm sure.
everybody's like, "Hey, what's going on with the planets?
Oh, funny. I love it. Oh,
Well,
Jeannie.
I will let you go. I
I'm
know.
so glad I met you.
Me too.
I need to.
I didn't get a chance to look at obviously all of your stuff yet. But I will. I want to read it. You have a beautiful family, by the way. Your girls look,
Uh,
I mean, like you all look alike. You all look like you came out of the same mold. That's so crazy. Are you still married?
yes.
Okay. I never
Yeah.
know, so I wasn't sure, but I saw him
Yeah.
with the girls, so yeah, the girls are beautiful. Just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Where were you looking?
On your website, I think.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it was because I went to your podcast and then I don't remember what happened. I think my computer shut down and I went back and I put your name in and it gave me a website. And it was, I don't know if you guys were on a tree.
Oh, yeah. A Christmas card from a few years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
2020. Yeah, that was 2020. We were in the woods because we couldn't go to the studio because we had to wear masks.
yeah, yeah. No, I know it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe we all made it through that.
And now it's, everything that I'm learning now, like I'm sure you know do too, like going into this, we're going skiing tomorrow. We're going to Utah and we're going to be, the inauguration on Monday and how everything's like the shift, the fires that we just experienced this week now. But, it's just like all this. what, like exposing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's revelation. It's revealing everything. That's
Right.
what we're in the apocalypse. It's not the end of the world. It's literally just the end of what we know it to be. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it was. You know that the apocalypse is literally the apocalypse because every planetary shift that happened like 20,000, every 20,000 years, every 5,000 years, every 500 years, all are happening at the same time now. That's why they call it the apocalypse. It's not everyone's going to die and go to heaven or hell. It's not that. It's that everything is switching at one time within a 2 year period. That's what they call this. And so, and Revelation just, we're all so much more tuned in that when someone speaks on TV and they say they're the president and they're going to do these things, you know if they're honest or not.
Oh, I totally do.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
what this is all about. So yes, we're in Revelation, we're in
Huh.
the apocalypse. It's not a big deal. It's not as big as, I mean, it is rough, don't get me wrong, but we're going to be on the other side of it in 2027 in so much of a better place. So much of a better place.
Oh,
We will
neat.
lose things, of course, but it's about time to lose them because we're not getting what we're supposed to be getting. The government is just terrible.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I mean, I see right through it, like I said, I don't even know how you can watch that. Like,
And I
I can't even
know,
listen to
I
him
know,
speak.
I
Like,
know, I know. I
yeah,
say
I
to
can.
myself, how are you not hearing what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
How are you not?
I know.
Yeah. And so did you notice how people are, somebody was talking to me about something that they heard the other day, which is brilliant, that people are hearing the same speech, somebody saying something, and they're like, oh, this time is so horrible, and it's, and then there's so much oppression, and there's so much abuse, and da da da. And the other person says in the same about the same situation, they're like, I can feel all the love coming and us
Yeah.
blooming and us, growing. It's like
Yeah.
we're splitting so fast. I mean, we've
Right.
always been apart, the fifth dimension and the third dimension, but now it's like this huge gap that it's like, either you're walking on the clouds or you're in hell, literally, and
Right.
you're doing it to yourself.
Oh, that's such a good way to look at it that way because it's so true.
It's
And I
nuts.
see that too. I'm like, you could watch. I remember like what I felt like, oh, I feel so much better. I'm like, I feel so lifted. I didn't realize it was so heavy. And then
Right.
and I'm hearing this other thing. Like, it's just like, what? Where are you living? Like, what planet do you live on? What are you watching?
What just happened? Right. That's exactly what I said to him. It's like, I really don't get this whole thing here. I have to just not listen. I literally do. And I never thought I would say that, but because I like to be educated, but I'm like, no, because this isn't even real. I can't wait until Neptune comes out of Pisces. That's where all of this craziness has come from. Neptune and Pisces. It's going
Okay.
to go into Aries. Once it goes into Aries, everything that we've worked on for years, people like you and me, are actually literally going to be seen for what we've been trying to do. So everybody's going to be seen for who they are. But those people who've been doing light work for all these years, it's been a delusional type thing. Either people get it or they don't. It's really hard.
Right.
You're going to actually be envisioned as a hero. That's what that is going to look
Oh,
like.
wow.
So it for you and me, life is going to get so much better.
Oh, huh, neat.
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Oh, Jeannie, I love you. I loved it so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I guess I will see you on the 7th. Do you need anything from me before then?
Nope. Nope. Let me just make sure I have I sent you, didn't I do something weird on the date?
Oh yeah,
Like
you gave me the 13th, and I was like, so I always check for the
the,
void of course. If you're ever going to do something really, really important, make sure it's not during a void of course. So anytime I go on a show or I like launch something, you make sure it's not on a void of course. That means
what
that
does that mean?
so when the planets are going from one sign to another, there's a specific time in between where they're void of a course of direction. So, like President Reagan used to never take a meeting on avoid a course because it will always go very well in the beginning, but because it's not attached to any sign, any energy, it fails. So it just goes up and then goes down. So there are uh calendars out there that say void a course, and it'll say the void starts at 1:52 p.m. on this day and ends either the same day or the next day at a different time. But as long as you do it outside of the void, it will latch onto some kind of energy that will make it successful. So
Huh.
when I do that, I actually I set the 7th because it was not in a void, and then you sent the 13th, and I was just like, oh no, I didn't check the 13th. So I was,
Oh, funny.
oh
Yeah,
no.
I have it. It's on, I sent you the Zoom too, because it's on my Zoom calendar. Yeah, the 12th or this that 12 o'clock, the 7th on Friday.
Don't mess with me. It's too easy. I'm really
Yeah.
blonde.
Oh,
All right,
thank you,
honey.
thank you, thank you.
I will convert this and then send it over to you. If you have any questions or concerns, just let me know.
Okay, thank
It was
you.
great meeting you.
So nice to meet you too. Oh, I loved it. Thank you.